Welcome everyone to a new semester of coursework. In this particular class with the Introduction to Social Work, I'll be walking you through many of the different fields that you may find yourself in as a social worker in the years ahead. One of the things that's pretty impressive about the textbook is the 20 some odd chapters that the author writes about different fields of practice within the social work field, and that's one of the things that I believe makes our profession particularly unique and particularly interesting to its members. When I was a kid, my dad, who grew up during the Great Depression, got a job with the government, federal government, and the post office eventually, and stayed with the post office all those years. Found great value in the fact that he had one employer who really took care of him and his wife and his children in terms of benefits and salary and job security and things like this. And when I left for school, the youngest of his 5 sons, he told me to stick with the job that I got. And so I go to school, and one of the first things I hear in a social work course is from one of the professors that you don't want to stay in any one job too long because you do kind of get a tendency to be burned out if you don't look at things from different perspectives. And so his encouragement was to really move around and try out different things in the field. In a way, I've done that. In a way, I've kept that constant thread. I think I've kind of found a way to blend the two, and I'll tell you just a little bit about myself in a moment. But in any event, after 40 some years in the field, I was able to retire in April of 2014 from my full-time day job, and finally allow myself to spend more time dealing with and preparing the coursework for the classes over the years. And I've been teaching for the Kenai Peninsula College for well over 20 years now. I have also begun to do online education over the last 5 years or so, and in the last 2 or 3 years I've been fortunate enough to be able to do coursework for the University of Alaska Anchorage's School of Social Work specifically, which is what this class is all about. And so I'm happy to be here and to share this information with you, and I hope that you find the material to be engaging and also material to be very helpful to you in a number of different ways. A little bit about myself, as I promised, and some of you have had courses with me beforehand, and my apologies for the repetition here, but I'll try to keep it short. I do have a license in clinical social work in the state of Alaska, and have held that license for about 25 years now, I guess. I graduated from Michigan State University 1974, in fact, with a bachelor's in social work. Worked 8 years in the field in child welfare. in food stamp certification and public assistance programming, and then 4 or 5 years in child protection in Central Florida, and another several years in a children's home, which was the residential care facility where the children that were removed from their families because of abuse or neglect were placed waiting to return home, be placed in a foster home, or to be adopted. More specifically, during some of that period of time, I worked with a caseload of what were called ungovernable teenagers as a caseworker. And after I left for grad school and came back with my master's degree in 1983, I was promoted into a new position with the counseling services coordinator for the campus, and I managed the other counselors around in the various cottages around the campus for the remainder of my employment there. In 1987, I moved to Alaska and began work with Central Peninsula Counseling Services. At that time, it was Central Peninsula Mental Health, and worked there for about 8 years. This agency is now known as Peninsula Community Health Services, or PCHS, I believe. It's changed many times since I was there. In 1995, I left work with the Mental Health Center and began working in child protection once again. It felt like coming home in some respects in Kenai, and I managed the Kenai Child Protection Office and parts of that and in various offices around the peninsula for 19 years at the time of my retirement. During that period of time, as I mentioned, I've also had the opportunity to teach very regularly for Kenai Peninsula College in sociology, human services, and social work courses, as well as now for UAA School of Social Work as well. So I do bring a bit of experience to this class, and I hope that the kinds of things that I can share with you about the realities, the practices I know it at least might add to this textbook rendition as well. You see my email addresses here. The first address is the university address, of course, and it is the address that the university prefers we use. So you're encouraged to use that address. However, my Alaska.net address is a private address at home. No one else accesses it, so you can feel very assured of privacy in writing to me there as well. I do see the Alaska.net email more frequently than I do the university address, but I do check my university email regularly, which now is the time to tell you this, and I'll tell you again, you need to make sure you do as well as an online student. And I understand that you have a Gmail account given to you by the university as well as your official alaska.edu, UAA probably, alaska.edu address. And it is that uaa.alaska.edu address that Blackboard communicates with, as I understand it. And you may not always be able to forward that mail to your Gmail account. So just be aware of the fact that I'm communicating with you through your official university email address, and all your friends and coworkers and fellow group members in class are doing the same. So be sure you check this email address regularly. I will tell you that again before we're done. My phone numbers are also listed here. You can leave a message at either number. Again, both voicemail messages are really secure and private, and no one else is checking them at this time, and so feel free to leave me messages as you need to. We actually have two books in this course, and the first one is what I will refer to as the text, and is the larger book that really the course is organized around. Now, as you look through the syllabus, you'll notice that most weeks have a couple of different chapters assigned. There are 20 some odd chapters in this book, but you're going to find this is to be a very easy reading book, and the chapter's relatively short. So don't panic and don't think you're in over your head. You'll be able to deal with this and deal with it successfully. Glicken is a social worker himself and has a lot of experience in various areas in the field as well, and certainly has his opinions presented in this text. I have to tell you, there are some things about this text that I find a little deficient. I just haven't found a better one yet, but it's got more positive kinds of things about it than negatives, and so I feel good about using this textbook and think you'll find that there's a lot of good information in it for you. In addition to this, you are going to be given assignments out of a reader, which is actually a smaller textbook called Working with People, The Helping Process. This is a book I used a few editions back in a human services course that I taught down at KPC here, and found to be a very, very good book. While Glicken the textbook may look more at the broader perspective of social work and the technicalities of how social workers do their jobs and those kinds of things, and certainly does spend some time talking about the helping relationship and what makes a good helping relationship. This book really focuses upon the relationship between worker and client, and I think you're going to find the material in this to be very good, and so I'm happy to add this to the reading. And again, pretty easy reading stuff. I really don't like to use books that have a lot of technical terms, and I like to have books that are engaging for myself as well as my students, because don't forget, I'm reading these books too. And so I think you'll find this to be a very useful addition to the course, and something that I hope a book that you're going to want to keep as the years go on. Now on to the course syllabus. You'll find a menu item in your course menu in Blackboard that is called syllabus, and if you click on that menu item, you will find the first item there is indeed a printable, downloadable Word version copy of the course syllabus, and I strongly encourage you to print that out and keep it handy. Always have a hard copy of your syllabus available. The official Word about the course and the requirements are in this syllabus. That's not to say that it isn't subject to change, because realities of life sometimes intrude and we have to make some changes here and there, but I'll always keep you posted. But this is sort of the contract that you're supposed to be able to hold me to, so keep it handy, will you? And be sure you read through all of it and that you understand everything in it. If there's anything that you don't quite get, please contact me and give me an opportunity to explain it to you. Also, you're going to find if you keep clicking through that particular learning unit, as we call it, you're going to find that the course syllabus has, I've broken down each segment of the course syllabus, so later on you can, if you want to look up something online and you don't have your hard copy around or whatever and you want to look it up online, it's broken down into sections, so just for easy access. One of the things that's spelled out in the course syllabus, of course, is how you earn your points, and I wanted to just touch on this a little bit. There are 670 points total, not counting bonus questions, bonus points. 50 points for attendance and participation. Blackboard tells me when you check in, when you were last there. I can see from your involvement, are you fully fulfilling the requirements of the discussion board and journal posts and things, or are you kind of half entering it? Are you regular in making your posts, or do you hit and miss? All those kinds of things go into your participation points. But if you stay there and you're in every week and you're participating, you're going to get full 50 points there. Discussion boards. Oh, and I thought I had that word removed, and blog it says, but I should say journal. I used to use a blog tool in my classes, and well, first of all, the tool that I used has been taken away from us. I didn't really like it too much anyway, but we're now using a journal tool, and it's just one of those things like out damn spot. I just can't get rid of this word, whether it's in syllabuses or it's in the slides or it's in some section in the course. And so wherever you see blog, just put journal in its place in your head and you'll be all right. So we have discussion boards. There's at least one discussion board every week that you're to respond to, and a journal entry to be made. And each of those are worth 10 points each week. So altogether you have 20 points available every week with discussion board and blog entries. Not counting this week, then there's 14 weeks ahead, so you have 280 points there. One of the things that you're going to be doing, I'm going to skip this next one and go to the group research and written project, is you are going to team up with other students. And for those of you who have taken other classes and think you know what I'm going to say here, you're going to be surprised, because this isn't going to be a yes-no kind of discussion of a particular controversial topic. In this class, what we do is we look at groups that suffer from oppression and try to research their history and talk about their experiences and those kinds of things in a paper. And so this is what we call a diversity project, and it will be a group project, and you'll be dividing work up among yourselves. But in any event, this is what your group research project is going to be. For those of you who have never done a group project in Blackboard, I'm going to give you each of your groups a work site that you work together in. It's only you are accessible to. And you really can do group work very easily, as long as everybody's participating, and there's the rub we'll touch on in a moment. But this is a group project, and you together, the 4 or 5 of you, however many are working on this, will present one paper. So more on that later, and at the time that it's assigned, and that isn't going to be assigned probably for another 3 weeks or so anyway, before you know what your project is. Now, related to that, right above that, the 2 group site check-ins, because of the fact that, well, we have procrastinators in our midst, and there are some people who do best working against tight deadlines. And so if a project is due on December 1st, they're content to wait until November 27th and then suddenly pour it on and try to get everything done over the weekend. And sometimes you actually turn out a pretty decent project. What you need to know, if you're one of those people, is that most students don't approach their topics that way, and you are assigned in a group, and people are waiting to discuss your portion of the project and what you're going to do, and you hold everybody up if you don't check in. And so I have learned that it's useful to have a required group check-in. So twice during the semester, I will give you dates later on where I'm going to check in on your group site. I do get to see in your group sites, and make sure that you've checked in, that you've done something, that you're communicating, that your group members know how to get a hold of you, all those kinds of things. And I'm going to do that twice. And so I'm going to want to see contributions made by you in your group site on those dates. And if they're there, you'll get 20 points. If it's just hi and that's all, maybe you'll get 5 points. But I mean, if you've had something relatively substantial contributed and is visible in the group site, that doesn't mean sending emails back and forth, because I can't read your emails. If you're texting your fellow group members, I have no way of knowing that. The evidence has to be in the group site. That means you're working and communicating through the group site, at least some. And so 20 points times 2, 40 points possible for that. When your projects are done and I have graded them and given them back to you, I will take a clean copy of your project and I will post it in a discussion board forum, and all of the students' papers will be then open to the other students to read and comment on and discuss. And you can earn up to 50 points in those discussion boards. There will also be 2 tests, multiple choice and true false, probably mostly. During the semester. The first one around mid-semester is going to be for 40 points, and the second one at the end of the semester, which will be cumulative for the entire semester but weighted towards the second half of the semester, will be 60 points. These tests will draw questions from both the Galic and from the Levine books. So altogether, 670 points, plus for those extra discussion boards, about 5 times during the semester there will be an extra discussion board in there. And if you do both discussion boards and you fulfill the requirements fully and you get 10 points there, that's 10 extra points. And so, by the end of the semester, you're going to have 50 extra points accumulated, which is clearly easily a letter grade in most cases. And so stay on top of these. And if you don't feel like you need the bonus points later on, you might feel like you do. So I would just encourage you to participate in all discussion boards that are available when they're available. The grading scale here, based on 670 points, which is without those bonus points, you can kind of figure, just do the math, what 90 times 670 is for an A, what 80 times 670 is for B, and so on. Already talked about this, just your regular involvement in posts and me seeing that you're checking in and that you are, everybody misses a week here or there every now and then, but when I start getting into weeks, like periods of 2, 3, 4 weeks where we don't see you, or we only see you surface once or something, and there's no explanation for that, that's the kind of thing that's really going to hurt your points here. So for your discussion boards, every week on Sunday, a new learning unit will open up. So you're in week 1 now, and so next Sunday, week 2 will open. And one of the things you'll find is the discussion board, or the learning units, are set up so that you work through slides. The first slide will have an opening slide or 2 where I have written things for you to think about as you begin to study this particular week's topic. You'll then have an explanation of what the goals and objectives are for this week's study, which should relate to what's in your, they should tie into your syllabus goals and objectives. Then you're going to have the week's assignments, and so I'll spell out which book, which chapter. Sometimes there'll be some readings, additional readings out of the web or whatever. Nothing too heavy there, but your reading assignments will be next. Then the lectures, and you will find 1, 2, or 3 lecture panes of varying lengths. Now, it may seem kind of like a pain sometimes to have to sit and listen to these lectures, but I really think it's very, very important for you to do this, because that is, in effect, class time. So if we were doing this class at the university in a classroom, you would be spending, around 3 hours a week with me in this class, because it's a 3-credit course. And so when you think about these lectures, this one's 45 minutes long and this one's 30 minutes long. The two of them together is an hour and a quarter, which is half the time you would be sitting at a desk. Did I do my math right? I think so. Sometimes they're a little longer, sometimes they're a little less. Please listen to the lectures. They're there for a purpose, and they're really going to add to the material that's in the textbooks. After the lecture panes, and you don't even have to, you can just click on it. You don't have to go to YouTube, but it links into a YouTube video, so everything is right there in Blackboard for you. And they do download onto your phone too. So if you, commuting and you want to listen to something, you can listen to me. Okay, after the lectures, then there's the discussion board pane, and that's called response to readings, usually, or response to topic. And when you click on the link there, it will take you to the discussion board forums, and you'll find that particular week's discussion board. You click on that topic or topics, and it will then allow you're then able to create a thread. When you do that, you should subscribe to the thread, because what that does is when someone replies to your post, you will get an email that tells you so you know to go in and look and hopefully reply back. We are trying to discuss here, so we want to turn this into a discussion. That means talking back and forth, and so this is a way to make this really useful. So you make your original post by the following Sunday night. So let's say on August the 31st, next Sunday, you go in and you've done the readings now, say by 2 or 3 days later, and the post that opened, the discussion board rather, that opened on August 31st, your original post should be done by the following Sunday night, September the 7th. And so you make that on Sunday, September the 7th. You put your post in of 150 words minimum. And then you may wait a few days and go back in, so that by Thursday following that second Sunday, you are replying to original posts from your classmates. So each week you should have your original post plus 2 responses to classmates for the full 10 points. And your responses should be, substantial. They don't have to be 150 words, but they should be more than, yeah, I agree, no, I disagree, right, that kind of thing. Say something useful, contribute to a discussion. Okay, and so having done that, then I will generally wait until that 10-11 day period from the time the discussion board opens until it more or less closes by the following Thursday, when everybody's supposed to have their replies into original posts. I usually wait till the following weekend to do the grading, and so sometimes you'll see that the grade's going to come about 2 weeks after the discussion board has actually opened, is when you're going to start seeing grades for it. Now, this is a public post, and so that means that everybody in the class can look in on what you've written, and so just keep that in mind, and we'll go from there. Now, again, occasionally there are 2 discussion boards in any learning unit, and that's extra credit. You can choose whichever discussion board you want to respond to. One isn't extra credit. It's just that if you do 2, you earn extra credit. Now, your current events post is in your what we call the weekly e-scrapbook journal. If I don't know anymore if I'd actually do this, but in my years, and this is a course that I have taught previously, and I also taught a course on social welfare many times, and one of the things that I would have students do is to actually clip articles from the newspaper and magazines, or download things off the web, put them in a scrapbook, articles related to the topics that we're studying. And so what we do now here is every week you are to bring in a current event and bring it in. You're supposed to select a current event, something from the newspaper, from the magazines, from the news, something like that. Briefly summarize that article. Tell me where it comes from, what the name of the article is as well, and the date, and then post another paragraph in your journal of about 150 words or more that is a response to that kind of gives you a reaction to whatever that article is. Now, this article might be related to social welfare, might be related to civil rights. This is an introduction to social work course. It could be about any issue affecting any clients that you might work with, client groups. It can be about legislation. It can be political things that have an impact. Not just, again, keep in mind, this is supposed to be about social work, and it's supposed to be about our client population. So, I found sometimes that students sometimes get very, very fascinated by these stories of the mothers who have, starved 8 children and buried them in their basement and were just discovered, and there's follow-ups to that and everything. Maybe once that's interesting, and maybe you can tie that into the course, but really, let's not obsess on those kinds of things. I mean, really, we want to make this something that applies to the work that you're doing. This is a private post, and the reason that this is private is so that you have the opportunity to speak with me more or less privately. If you were to walk out of a classroom in a face-to-face class and want to talk to me about a topic because something is troubling you about the topic or something personal has arisen related to the topic that you want to talk about with me, if you have a reaction to an article or a news event that you don't necessarily want to share with the entire class but would like to share with me personally for my response, this gives you a chance to do that. So consider this your private time with me. Always remember to respond to the topic at hand, but if you have other things you want to bring up here, this is a good chance to do this. So there is a great description about how to make good posts in how your posts will earn points in this week's course content, and also in the course menu item board and journal grading guidelines. So please look there. Among other things, there is an excellent example of how I would like to see your journal responses structured. So if you check that out, and if you do it like that, you're likely to get your 10 points every week. You and 2 or 3 classmates will be assigned to the study of a group that looks at diversity studies, and maybe 4 of you altogether, I don't know. But what you're going to do is I'm going to assign you to a particular group that has to deal with issues about oppression or inequalities in our society, and I want you to research that group both in terms of whatever articles might be out there about this particular topic on the web and in libraries and things like this, but perhaps also by interviewing individuals related to that group and connecting with organizations that might be in existence to advocate for that group's special needs. So more about that later on. The group assignments will be made randomly, and I will be making those announcements in a few weeks, so stay tuned to that. You have 150 points total for that. One of the things I want to mention to you, for those of you that haven't done online group work before, if you're a procrastinator, this is not the time to be a procrastinator, because you're going to drive your other classmates, your other group mates, crazy. And particularly if you're the kind of person that doesn't really communicate much while you're procrastinating, because the group members won't know whether to go ahead without you or not. And so twice during the semester, you're going to find, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. It's not there altogether. So twice during the semester, one of the things that you're going to find is that you will be graded on group check-ins, and this, again, I'll explain later as that becomes implemented, but on 2 dates during the semester, I will be looking in your group site, and I will be looking to see that you have contributed by contributions in your Blackboard group site. If you're texting back and forth with other group members, if you're sending emails, those things I can't see. These have to be things I can see. It has to be visible in the group site, and you will be graded based upon whether or not I see contributions in there on those specific dates. More about that when the projects are assigned. Okay, moving forward now. After your group papers are completed, and I have graded them, I'm also going to take a clean copy of the paper, and I'll post it in a discussion board forum, and your other class members will then be able to read your paper, and you'll be able to read your other classmates' papers, and engage in a discussion board related to that particular topic. And so you'll be able to earn up to 50 points for your participation in these discussion boards as well. There's 2 tests during the semester, really. One's worth 40 points, the other's worth 60. Relatively speaking, probably not too overly important in terms of the total percentage of points, and yet not anything that you would want to dismiss and not concern yourselves with. Now, when the tests open, they open on Thursday of the week in which they're placed. So I don't have the 2 weeks in front of me, but I suspect it's probably something like week 7 and week 15 or something along those lines, 7 and 14, 8 and 15, somewhere in there. It's in your syllabus. On Thursday of that week, the test will appear in your weekly course content. It doesn't appear otherwise. And before that time, that is. And then from that point forward for 11 days, you have an opportunity to take that test. You can use your books in responding to the test. There will be a number of questions in Blackboard, and Blackboard kind of mixes them up for every student, and so no student gets the same test, although it will be drawing from the same pool of questions. And so you take that test. It is a timed test, I believe. It is. I have set it at 90 minutes this semester for 40 questions. It might be 60. When that time period is over, the test will close. You can't open the test and come back to it later. Well, you can, but the clock is going to keep ticking. And so once you've opened that test, you have to finish it during that time period. And your grade will be taken whatever it is at the end of that time period. Now, if you do take the test and you're not happy with your results, you'll be able to take the test a second time just by going back to that spot in the weekly course content and opening up and taking another test. And the higher of your two scores is the one that will be recorded. Try to make them as user-friendly as possible. But don't miss the test closing date, because the test will close at shortly before midnight, 2 Sundays after it opens. And so again, this information is on your syllabus and will also be in the weekly course content where the test opens when it closes. But once that test is closed, I can't go back and reopen it again. Well, to tell you the truth, I can go back and reopen it again, but I won't, because it's not fair to the rest of the students. There will be additional discussion boards. Remember this, during the course of the semester. Every now and then there will be 2 discussion boards in a week, and that will one of those 2 will be your extra credit for that week. And so you can, of course, you have to answer both in order to get the extra credit. And it doesn't matter which of the 2 you answer. So if you answer both, then you get 10 full points because you complied with the expectations in terms of how to respond to a discussion board. You're going to get 10 extra credits, 10 extra points that week. Now, this is over and above the 670 points total, and I know 10 points here, 10 points there might not seem like a whole lot, but as the semester goes along and you get closer and closer and you're watching your totals, they're going to mean more. So I would encourage you to answer the extra discussion boards when you have the opportunity. As you've probably already noticed, your course opens to announcements in the Blackboard, and important information will be posted there, so please always check. The new announcements will always be at the top of the list, but please always check to see if there's anything new. Now, when I post announcements, I also have Blackboard send you an email with that announcement in it. That email goes to your university account, not your Gmail account, but your university account. That is the one with uaa.alaska.edu at the end of it. I think you may be able to have your email forwarded to your Gmail account through the university there or to others, but if you don't do that, and maybe even if you do, make it your habit to check your university email accounts regularly. It is your responsibility to do that. If you don't get these announcements, it's not my responsibility, it's yours. Now, if you open it up and you see announcements there that you haven't gotten emails about, that tells you that you have a problem, or Blackboard has a problem in communicating with your university email account. And so be sure to check with IT if there's announcements posted and you're not getting them in emails because there's a problem there. Again, this is your responsibility to keep track of and to watch, but please do so, because this is kind of like me standing up in front of the class at the beginning of the week and saying, by the way, I have something to tell you. It's very important that you hear this, so please listen up. That's what these are about, so please do stay tuned to those announcements. But your most important link on your course menu is the weekly course content, because really every bit of information about your assignments, the lectures are there, the reading assignments are there, your discussion board links, your journal links, the slides, copies of slides of your course content, all those kinds of things are right there in the weekly course content for each week. Each week's content opens very early on Sunday morning each week, and so at 12:15 on Sunday morning, if you're really eager to get started next week's work, all you have to do is open up your Blackboard and you'll have a new week there with all of that laid out for you. So please remember, the weekly course content is where you access everything. And the other thing is, please be sure to read every slide each week to the end. I have a slide or slides at the beginning and the end that I compose personally that talks about what you're going to be studying or what you have studied, to kind of either introduce you to the topic or tie loose ends up at the end of the topic. It kind of helps me to get you thinking about what I think you ought to be going over as you kind of integrate all of this stuff. And so please be sure to read those slides, and also Something that is a bit of a quirk with Blackboard, I think at least, is that when you go into the discussion board link, you don't have your little arrow at the top of the page to take you to your next slide, because you actually come out of the weekly course content to go to discussion boards and to journals. And so what you have to do to get back to where you were is, use your browser back button or whatever technique you have. I think in Mac, you just kind of swipe to the right and you're back to the previous page. But you have to get your computer back to the previous page where the weekly course content is to keep moving along. If you don't do that, you're going to miss the last few slides every week. Every week there's also a course menu. If you click on, there's a little, I believe it's sort of a gray band between the course menu and your course content. At least it is on my screen. And if you click on that, you can see what the course menu is for the week. And so make sure that you actually see each of the items before you finish your work for the week. For those of you that have had email or online courses before, this is probably something that maybe just need a little reminder about. For those of you that are new to it, this is perhaps more important. But there is a slide in this week's course content about etiquette, and there are probably 4 or 5 dozen different points you can add in about etiquette. That net etiquette is what we're talking about here. Remember, when you type things and send them electronically, you are not communicating your tone of voice, your eye contact, your body language. No one can see your facial expressions. And so we don't know when you're joking or not. So when you compose messages, keep that in mind and try to be cautious about assuming that people understand your frame of reference all the time. Sarcasm does not come through very well. And so that's one thing. Just be conscious of the fact that there are people who are reading your comments who have feelings and may respond in a way that over-personalizes something, even if you didn't intend it that way. Now, this doesn't mean everything has to be politically correct all of the time. I want people to be able to express their opinions freely, as long as it's not offensive to individuals and groups in a way that shouldn't be expressed. But other than that, I do believe we need to be able to express ourselves in this course. But when we do that, we need to be conscious of the fact that the people who are receiving our messages are human beings with feelings and their own life experiences. And so just please keep that in mind. The other side of that is when someone does say something that's offensive, try to give them a little bit of forgiveness for being clumsy perhaps with that. Let me know if you feel you need to, and I can address it with the student, or you can certainly ask the student yourself how they meant that. But please, if there are problems, particularly of a repeated nature of offensive comments or those kinds of things, let me know, and I will certainly do my best to deal with it. So this week's discussion board, you're writing a post of about 150 words or more that tells you something about yourself. Now, here's some examples of some questions you might want to answer. By all means, these are just suggestions. You can answer other questions. You can answer one of these questions. You can answer all of them, whatever you want to do. And usually in most discussion boards, I'll have a series of questions, and those questions are intended to get you thinking about what you need to think about to respond. You don't have to respond to each and every question. The other thing I'd say to you is attach a photograph if you're comfortable with that. It can be a picture of you. It can be a picture of loved ones, places you've been, places you've seen, whatever it is, something that expresses something about you. But that's purely voluntary. It's not required, and I'm just saying that photographs a lot of times just kind of enliven discussion boards and journal entries, and so just feel free to make use of that media, but not required. Not required. And do that throughout the semester if you would like to. So in the week ahead, in preparation for your first journal entry, watch the news for current events related to social work, civil rights, or other social work related issues. Again, there's a number of different things here. This is just the tip of the iceberg of things that might be in the news, in the political atmosphere, so to speak, in the social atmosphere that might be something worth summarizing and commenting on. So, closing with a comment from Dr. Albert Schweitzer, who was I must say, I think he was a physicist or something like that. He was a doctor anyway, but he was famous when I was a little boy. I remember about because of his humanitarian efforts and his study of society and cultures and and individuals in foreign lands. And Dr. Schweitzer commented that the final decision as to what the future of a society shall be depends not on how near its organization is to perfection, but on the degrees of worthiness of its individual members. And so each of us are in the social work field, I think, because we want to contribute to the world and the society in which we live, and to make it a better place for ourselves, for our kids, for all of mankind, maybe most importantly, for our individual clients. And so I think the social work can qualify as a very noble profession, and its members would be among those who Dr. Schweitzer is referring to here as being worthy and contributing to the good of the society. So with that, I'll close for my introduction, welcome you to the class again, and encourage you to let me know if any questions should arise during the course of the semester. Thank you. Talk to you again.